1959, 9 experienced hikers vanished on a mountainside in the Soviet Ural Mountains. When rescuers found them weeks later, they were badly injured. Some were half naked in sub-zero temperatures. One was missing his eyes. Another was missing her tongue. No bodies were found at the scene of the camp. No weapon, no suspects. Just a slashed tent, cut open from the inside, and 9 people who never came home. It started as an ambitious winter trek. Igor Dyatlov, 23 years old, an engineering student at the Ural Polytechnic Institute, led a group of 8 students and 1 sports instructor into the northern Ural Mountains. Their goal: to reach Mount Ortorden, a 190-mile journey through some of the most remote, unforgiving terrain in Russia. On January 23, 1959, the group set out from Sverdlovsk. They were experienced hikers, well-equipped, all of them in their early 20s. Confident. 5 days in, Yuri Yedlin, one of the hikers, turned back. His sciatica had flared up badly enough that he couldn't continue. He said goodbye to his friends. He thought he'd regret leaving early. He didn't know he'd be the only one to survive. Around February 1st, the group made camp on the slopes of the Dyatlov Pass. The weather had turned. A blizzard was moving in. They dug a platform into the hillside and set up their tent for the night. This is where the record ends, for reasons still not fully understood. Sometime that night, everything went wrong. When the rescue team arrived weeks later, they found the tent collapsed and buried in snow. It had been slashed open from the inside. Their belongings were still inside. Food was still laid out on the plate, half prepared. Footprints slid away from the tent in the snow. Some were barefoot, some in socks or single socks, some wearing only underwear. And this was happening in February, in the Urals, at minus 25 degrees Celsius. The first 2 bodies were found hundreds of yards from the tent, near the remnants of a fire. Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivnishenko lying in their underwear next to the embers. Medical examiners noted burns on Krivnishenko's body. He also had a piece of his own flesh in his mouth. He had bitten down on his own hand. 3 more bodies were found in the days that followed, all showing signs of hypothermia and something else called paradoxical undressing. Paradoxical undressing is a phenomenon where people dying of extreme cold begin to feel burning hot. Victims have been known to tear off their clothes in their final moments, which is exactly what appears to have happened here. These 5 hikers died of hypothermia, but the remaining 4 were still missing. 2 months later, when the spring melt finally exposed what lay beneath, investigators found something far stranger. The remaining 4 hikers had built a snow den. They were huddled together inside it, and their injuries were unlike anything seen before. Nikolai Thibault Brignol had a fracture so severe that there were bone fragments in his brain. Semyon Zolotaryov had a crushed chest, like something heavy had fallen on him at force. Lyudmila Dubinina had a fractured skull, and both Zolotaryov and Dubinina were missing their eyes. Dubinina was also missing her tongue. Fatal injuries from a fall don't typically include missing eyes and tongue. Something else had happened here. Soviet investigators concluded only the hikers had died from a compelling natural force. They closed the case, and then a detail emerged that made the mystery considerably worse. Some of the hikers' clothing contained traces of radiation. This set off immediate suspicion. Soviet nuclear testing had happened in the region years earlier, the Kishtim disaster of 1957. 2 of the hikers had actually lived or worked around contaminated areas. The radiation on their clothes didn't match anything routine. It was different, stranger. Theories immediately flourished: secret weapons testing, a KGB cover-up, a botched encounter with a foreign power. The Soviet government said nothing. They never reopened the case. So what actually happened? Theory 1, a slab avalanche. The hikers heard something, wind, ice, cracking, and panicked. They cut their way out of the tent and fled downhill. They were unprepared, underdressed, and died of hypothermia. The severe injuries were caused by the avalanche itself. Theory 2. Infrasound. Certain mountain conditions can produce infrasound, very low-frequency sound waves that induce panic, disorientation, and hallucinations. The hikers, overcome by fear, fled in a panic, disorientation, and hallucinations. Hikers, overcome by fear, fled in a confused state. Theory 3. Military involvement. Russian military exercises were conducted in the area. Some researchers believe the hikers walked into an active testing zone and were caught in some kind of weapons experiment. Theory 4. Atmospheric phenomenon. Witnesses reported seeing glowing orange orbs in the sky over the mountain that night. Some researchers believe ball lightning, or an electrified atmospheric event, may have been responsible for the radiation traces and the injuries. Yuri Yudin, the one hiker who turned back, spent the rest of his life trying to understand what happened to his friends. He never stopped searching for answers. He died in 2013. He was the only survivor of an expedition that killed 9 people in a single night on a frozen mountainside and took its secrets with them. The mountain kept what happened, and 67 years later, it hasn't given it back.